Friends and viewers, good day. Alexandre Dumas, the, the best well-known French writer, famous for his Three Musketeers and The Count of Monte Cristo, and the other novel which he had written, I'm going to discuss it with you now, is The Man in the Iron Mask by Alexandre Dumas. Was first published in 1850 by Alexandre Dumas, among the most widely read and translated of all French authors. Alexandre Dumas lived and worked in the 19th century. A playwright, journalist, a travel writer, Dumas is likely best known for his historical fiction, much of which was initially published in serialized form. Along with the Count of Monte Cristo, his most enduring works are the three books that make up D'Artagnan romances, The Three Musketeers, The 20 Years After, and One Another, the closing section of which is known as The Man in the Iron Mask. So, the story of this novel, The Man in the Iron Mask, begins at the Bastille, a French prison. Aramis, a high-ranking Catholic Church official and former musketeer, arrived to hear the confession of a mysterious prisoner. He quickly learns that there is nothing for the man to confess, since he does not fully understand why he was originally imprisoned. Through a series of increasingly personal questions, Aramis tells the prisoner, Philippe, that he is the twin brother of King of France, Louis XIV, and that his identity has been kept secret by his lifelong imprisonment. Aramis tells Philip of his plan to break him out of prison, and since Philip and Louis are identical twins, replace Louis with Philip. Aramis hopes to use Philip's position to bolster his own ambition of becoming Pope. Philip agrees. Aramis plans to enact his plan the night of a big party at a chateau owned by Foucault, the superintendent of the finances. King Louis XIV is displeased of how lavish the party is, and one of his financial advisors, Colbert, seizes the opportunity to frame Foucault for stealing royal funds. Louis XIV sends D'Artagnan to arrest Foucault, but he guards him for the night instead. That same night, Aramis and Porthos disguised themselves and kidnapped Louis XIV, delivering him to the Bastille. In the morning, Aramis tells Foucault what he has done, expecting him to be a willing accomplice. Instead, Foucault rides to the Bastille to free Louis XIV. Aramis and Porthos flee to Belle Isle, and Philip is moved to another prison on an island, where he is forced to wear an iron mask for the rest of his life. Louis XIV moves his court to Nantes, seizing Foucault money to do so, and he has D'Artagnan arrest him upon arrival. Athos, another former musketeer, lives on a nearby estate with his son Raoul. Raoul is near heartbroken over his failed engagement to Louis Laville, who has since been King Louis XIV's mistress. Raoul joins a military expedition to Africa, hoping to die in the battle. King Louis XIV orders D'Artagnan to capture Porthos and Aramis for their crimes. Upon realizing there is no way for him to do his duty and still protect his friend. D'Artagnan resigned in the ensuing battle at Belle Isle. Porthos and Aramis killed dozens of men in the siege. As they try to escape, Porthos dies when a cavern collapses. Aramis uses his connection with the church to travel to Spain, where he becomes the Spanish ambassador to France, in Africa. The Spanish ambassador to France. D'Artagnan convinces Louis XIV to pardon Aramis. Raoul dies in Africa, and Athos dies of grief shortly thereafter. 4 years later, D'Artagnan leads King Louis XIV army in Holland and is killed by enemy cannon fire just as he is promoted to Marshal of France. At the novel's conclusion, Aramis is the only living musketeer. There is a historical basis to the story of the man in the iron mask. An unidentified prisoner was arrested in around 1670 and spent time in several French prisons, including the Bastille. His actual name was never definitely known, although some scholars believe he might have been Eustache Dogger, though there are no records to confirm this. However, the mystery's prisoner was he remained with one jail for 34 years and died known by the name of Marchioli. During the reign of Louis XIV, his face was kept hidden by a velvet cloth. In his writing about the prisoner, philosopher and writer Voltaire referred to the mask as made of iron and speculated the prisoner was Louis XIV's illegitimate older brother. Dumas' novel likely takes some inspiration from Voltaire writing on the matter, specifically the iron mask and the blood relation to the king. So this is the story of the man in the iron mask by Alexandre Dumas, and we have, when we see towards the theme of this novel, we see the code of conduct in the afterward. The man in the iron mask, Dumas' novel express a nostalgic yearning for a code of honor and decency which could only be maintained in fiction. So this is the one of the very surprising, very mysterious novel where the man was taken from the prisoner and he was replaced by the king, and the king was abducted, and he was taken to the prisoner instead. So nobody knows who was the real king. This is the story of the man in the iron mask by Alexandre Dumas. Thank you very much.